This Wednesday, a documentary drops that 4 years in the making claims to have finally identified the creator of Bitcoin. It's called Finding Satoshi, and 2 days after that, Hollywood releases Killing Satoshi, a $70 million thriller with Casey Affleck and Gal Gadot about a global hunt for the same person. Meanwhile, last week, the New York Times published an 18-month investigation naming a specific suspect, and that suspect is currently taking his company public, which means he may be legally required to reveal whether he's sitting on $70 billion worth of Bitcoin. The greatest financial mystery in human history is about to have its biggest week ever. Before you watch either film, here is everything you actually need to know. I'm Dax. This is Dax Crypto Lab, where analysis becomes action. Let me explain why this particular week, April 2026, is unlike any previous moment in the Satoshi story. For 17 years, this mystery has been a background noise in crypto. Every few years, someone claims to have found the answer. The community dismisses it. Life goes on. But right now, 3 separate bombshells hit simultaneously. The New York Times investigation, Finding Satoshi premiering April 22nd, Killing Satoshi heading to Cannes, and Bitcoin sitting at $75,000, making Satoshi's unmoved wallet worth approximately $70 billion. When the New York Times names a suspect, and Hollywood makes a $70 million movie about the same mystery, and a documentary with Michael Saylor and the founders of crypto claims to have the definitive answer, all in the same week, that is not a coincidence. That is a cultural moment, and cultural moments drive search traffic. Search traffic drives YouTube, and YouTube is where people go when they want to understand something before they watch it. That is exactly where we are right now. So let's give you the full picture. Every suspect, every clue, every reason this matters for Bitcoin's price, before the films tell you what they want you to believe. October 31st, 2008, Halloween. The global financial system is in freefall. Lehman Brothers collapsed 6 weeks earlier. The U.S. government just approved a $700 billion bailout for the banks that caused the crisis. Ordinary people are losing homes, jobs, savings. And on a cryptography mailing list that most people had never heard of, a message arrives, 9 pages, titled, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, sent by someone calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto. The timing was not accidental. 3 months later, January 3, 2009, Satoshi mines the first Bitcoin block, the Genesis block, and embedded inside it, permanently and forever, is a newspaper headline from that exact day. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. That was a message. That was someone saying, this system exists because the old system failed you, and it is designed so the old system can never do that again. For 2 years, Satoshi built the network, answered every technical question, responded to every email, always precise, always patient, always anonymous. Then, April 2011, a final message to developer Gavin Anderson. I've moved on to other things. It's in good hands with you. And then, silence. 15 years of silence. While the thing Satoshi built grew into a $1.4 trillion asset.
Get daily crypto insights by subscribing now.
Before we get to the suspects, you need to understand one number, 1 million. That is the approximate number of Bitcoin that Satoshi mined in the early days of the network. At current prices, that is roughly $70 billion, the single largest Bitcoin holding in the world. And it has never moved. Not one coin in 15 years. Through Bitcoin going from pennies to over $100,000 and back, through multiple bull markets where selling even 1% would have generated $700 million, not one coin has moved. There are 3 possible explanations. First, Satoshi is dead and the keys are lost forever. Second, Satoshi lost the keys themselves. Third, and this is the most financially significant possibility, Satoshi made a deliberate choice never to touch those coins because they understood something fundamental. The moment those coins move, Bitcoin changes. Every government, every regulator, every skeptic says the same thing. There is a founder, there is a controller, there is a person behind this. And suddenly, Bitcoin is not digital gold. It is a startup with a CEO. If Satoshi is alive, The discipline of never touching those coins is not restraint. It is the final act of design. It is what makes Bitcoin work. For 17 years, the same names kept appearing. Let's go through each one properly, because Finding Satoshi and Killing Satoshi are both going to reference these names. And you need to know the full story before you watch. Hal Finney, a cryptographer at PGP Corporation, the first person to ever receive a Bitcoin transaction, 10 Bitcoins sent directly by Satoshi on January 12, 2009. He had the technical background, the ideology, the timeline. He was diagnosed with ALS in 2009. He died in 2014. He denied being Satoshi until the end. The most compelling counter. Hal Finney had nothing to hide. He was already celebrated. If he was Satoshi, why not claim it? Nick Szabo, a computer scientist who invented BitGold in 1998, a full decade before Bitcoin, with almost identical architecture, proof of work, fixed supply, no central authority. The similarities are so striking that researchers believe Szabo invented Bitcoin twice. He has always denied it, but he has never explained why BitGold and Bitcoin are essentially the same system. Peter Todd, Canadian Bitcoin developer, HBO's 2024 documentary Money Electric pointed directly at him. The evidence, a forum post where Todd apparently completed a sentence Satoshi had started, as if he knew what came next because he wrote it. Todd denied it live on camera. The community rejected it. The documentary was widely criticized. Craig Wright, the most controversial name in all of crypto, an Australian computer scientist who actually claimed to be Satoshi, and then failed to provide any cryptographic proof. He spent years in legal battles trying to claim ownership of Satoshi's Bitcoin. Every court dismissed him. The Bitcoin community considers him definitively not Satoshi. He is the only candidate who wanted to be Satoshi, which is precisely why nobody believes him. Now we get to last week, and this is different from every previous investigation, not because the evidence is conclusive, but because of who conducted it and how. John Carreyrou spent 18 months on this. He is the journalist who exposed Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos, one of the most rigorous investigative reporters alive. He did not rely on gut feeling or circumstantial narrative. He used artificial intelligence at scale. His team collected the complete archives of 3 cryptography mailing lists, every post made between 1992 and 2008 by anyone who posted at least 10 times, 620 writers total. They fed everything into an AI trained to identify writing patterns, then compared every writer against every piece of Satoshi's known writing. The results pointed to one person, Adam Back, 55 years old, British cryptographer, PhD in distributed systems, CEO of Blockstream, one of Bitcoin's most important infrastructure companies, inventor of Hashcash, the proof-of-work system that Satoshi used as the literal foundation of Bitcoin mining. Satoshi cited Adam Back's work in the Bitcoin white paper. Back matched 67 of 325 exact, non-standard hyphen errors in Satoshi's writing, the closest match of 620 people analyzed. But the timeline is even more striking than the linguistics. From 2001 to 2007, Adam Back was one of the most prolific voices on the cryptography mailing lists. Then, from 2007 to 2011, nearly silent. Exactly the years Satoshi was building and launching Bitcoin. Then, in April 2011, 6 weeks after Satoshi's final message, Adam Back resumed posting publicly. 6 weeks, at a conference in El Salvador earlier this year, Carreyrou quoted a Satoshi line to Back directly. "I'm better with code than with words." Back began to respond. "I did a lot of talking though for somebody, I mean." Then stopped, corrected himself, called it a conversational slip. Carreyrou heard it as someone momentarily speaking from inside a role they had played for 15 years. And now there is one more layer that nobody else is talking about. Adam Back is currently taking Blockstream public through a SPAC merger with Cantor Fitzgerald. Under U.S. securities law, the CEO of a public company must disclose any material information that could affect investors. A $70 billion Bitcoin hoard is the most material information any CEO in history has ever held. The IPO forces the question. Carreyrou said on the Times Daily podcast he is, quote, somewhere between 99.5 and 100% certain Back immediately denied it. On X he wrote, "I'm not Satoshi, but I was early." Laser focused on the positive societal implications of cryptography and electronic cash. Now let me go where the films probably won't, because there is a layer to this story that all the individual candidate theories miss. What if Satoshi is not one person? The Bitcoin white paper is 9 pages, but the Bitcoin codebase launched in 2009 was tens of thousands of lines of sophisticated production-quality C++ code, developed and tested for years before release. One person, working alone, in secret, also maintaining the Satoshi persona on forums, also responding to every technical question from developers worldwide, also managing the early network. This is an extraordinary amount of work for one human being. Some researchers believe Satoshi was a team, 2 or 3 people, with one designated as the public-facing writer, which would explain why the linguistic analysis consistently points to one person, while the technical scale suggests multiple contributors. And then there is the layer that Killing Satoshi, the film, actually explores directly. The theory that powerful forces, governments, financial institutions, intelligence agencies had their own reasons for either creating Bitcoin or ensuring its creator was never found. The US government now holds a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The biggest institutional Bitcoin holders are all American companies. Morgan Stanley just launched a Bitcoin ETF. Strategy holds almost 800,000 Bitcoin. The country that was supposed to regulate Bitcoin became its biggest institutional buyer. Was that by design or coincidence? Killing Satoshi explores this as fiction, but the financial reality it describes is completely real. Now let me tell you what you're actually going to see this week. Finding Satoshi premieres April 22nd, this Wednesday. It is a documentary, 4 years of investigation by journalist William Cohan and private investigator Tyler Maroney. They interviewed Michael Saylor. They interviewed Fred Ehrsam. They interviewed Joseph Lubin. The co-director Tucker Tooley said, quote, "This film delivers a definitive answer to the question who created Bitcoin." Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong saw a screening and said, "It's the most thoughtful take on this subject I've seen, and I suspect you got to the right answer." That is a significant endorsement. Armstrong is not someone who speaks carelessly. Finding Satoshi is available for pre-order at findingsatoshi.com right now. Then, Killing Satoshi, a $70 million Hollywood thriller, directed by Doug Liman, the man behind The Bourne Identity and Edge of Tomorrow, Casey Affleck, Gal Gadot, Pete Davidson. The entire film was shot without a single real location, every background generated by AI, reducing a $300 million budget to $70 million. It is being shopped to buyers at Cannes next week. The plot follows unlikely heroes taking on governments and financial institutions determined to keep Satoshi's identity hidden. As Lyman described it, an epic battle that strikes at the core of what is money and who controls it. These 2 projects arriving in the same week, on top of the NYT investigation, is the biggest Satoshi moment since Bitcoin was created. The search traffic for Bitcoin creator and Satoshi Nakamoto has already exploded. This is going to get bigger before it gets smaller. Here is what I actually think. The evidence against Adam Back is the strongest of any candidate in 17 years of searching. Carrie is not a sensationalist. 99.5% from a careful man who destroyed Theranos is a meaningful statement. But here is the deeper truth that both films, and every investigation before them, either miss or deliberately avoid. It does not matter who Satoshi is. Not for Bitcoin, not for its price, not for its future. Satoshi built a system designed to not need its creator. The 1 million coins have never moved. The network has never been controlled by any single entity. Bitcoin survived the arrest of Ross Ulbricht. It survived the collapse of Mt. Gox. It survived China banning it 3 times. It survived the FTX collapse. It survived every attempt by every government to regulate it out of existence. And it survived 17 years without its founder. The fact that we are sitting here in 2026, Bitcoin at $75,000, institutions buying it by the billion, the US government creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and we still do not know who created it, is not a failure. It is the design working exactly as intended. Satoshi's greatest achievement was not inventing Bitcoin. It was disappearing afterward, because the disappearance is what made Bitcoin unstoppable. Watch Finding Satoshi this Wednesday. Watch Killing Satoshi when it releases. Both are worth your time. But remember, the answer to who created Bitcoin changes nothing about why Bitcoin works. And that is the most important thing either film will never tell you. Three things to do this week. 1. Watch Finding Satoshi. It premieres April 22nd at findingsatoshi.com. Pre-order is available now. Form your own opinion. 2. Watch the Blockstream IPO timeline. If Adam Back is required to disclose holdings as a public company CEO, the story gets a legal second chapter this year. 3. Watch Satoshi's wallet. The address starting with 1A1ZP1 is publicly visible on any blockchain explorer. If any coin from early Satoshi mining ever moves, that is the most significant market event in Bitcoin's history. Set a blockchain alert. Now, drop your theory in the comments. Who do you think Satoshi is? Adam Back? Nick Szabo? A team? A government agency? I read every single one and I will reply. And if this gave you more context than either film will, hit the like. You run your own lab. Next Sunday, we break down Bitcoin ETFs and how institutional money is reshaping the market in ways most retail investors have not noticed yet. Subscribe. Hit the bell. Every Sunday, we build the system. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, real-time market analysis. I'm Dax. This is Dax Crypto Lab, where analysis becomes action.